Hi everyone. I'm going to make another video on this actually. Thank you very much for all of your kind words with these coding byte videos. So yeah, I'm pleased you're all getting things from this and just seeing some of the coding styles that I take. And another just small disclaimer. These are just my own coding examples. So I may be doing things wrong, maybe doing them in a different way. There may be more efficient ways of doing things. This is just ways I've found as I'm writing code and that have worked, so just sharing with them with you. So I'm pleased you all enjoyed the last one. So I'm actually going to expand upon this example, and a number of you have come forward and said that works well. Remember, we're client side, so we can't actually see the server side file system. So this is only pulling JSON from the client side. But the reverse question was asked: how would we pull an array or a structure from the PLC and save it back to the client? So what better way of doing it than let's just add to this example, and I'll just update the repo so it does both. So this one, I'm just going to change this button. This was our load. Yeah, I'm just going to call it load. Let's call it what it is. Last time as well, we baked this into a script, which just keeps things tidy. Again, I think if you was going to obviously with things like saving and loading, you can obviously pass some parameters in, maybe, so to make this even more flexible. Maybe you want this thing to take the data, the structure that you want to save or that you want to load from, and maybe you want to pass in what data, like what file type this should have been. So by far, this isn't production level, production ready code by any sense. So yeah, hopefully just the examples on the inside of this just shown. But I'm going to put them into a function again just to keep them somewhat tidy. I do understand that they can be improved. So with this one, I'm just going to do save JSON. Let's just call it that. So we've got the opposite of what we were doing before. Save JSON, and again, I'm just going to run in here, just tidy some of this out because, like I say, I'm not going to pass anything in or out. Not even this. I won't even pass in a file name. I'm just going to show you how to drag it out of the PLC and stick in a name. If you wanted to look for a certain symbol or save it as a certain file name, these would be ideal places to add parameters and just pass in strings. But I'm just going to remove these for the moment. And that's it. The other thing as well that could be handy, and I'll probably cover this in a different video. I've definitely spoken about it in videos, but this whole thing of wait mode being asynchronous, synchronous or asynchronous. So at the moment this is synchronous, and we're going to have asynchronous calls inside it. So in other words, our function is going to take longer to complete than what this wrapper function how long this one will take. So if we truly wanted to do this the right way, and we call this function maybe in our graphical editor, we would look to inject this context object, which actually gives us a little object called CTX. That CTX object just has a success and an error function built in. And all we do is we keep passing that CTX all the way through our asynchronous calls. So by the time the last person finishes and we go, hey, we completed, done. We call CTX.success. We could even pass in some data at that point, but just calling success, that's what actually tells Twink HMI. If you're using this stacked in the graphical editor and we say, please wait for this next thing to complete, wait for this, that's what actually gives us that true waiting. But let me know if you'd like to see a video on asynchronous and the context object. I'm sure I'll be covering it soon anyway. So we're just going to say, yes, please change that file. So it just does that little change there. Now the code, I'm not going to write this code either, but I will talk through it. This is code I've written from a previous example. So let's just paste this in. Again, a little bit unlike me pasting code, but I think you'll benefit from just listening to me talk about it rather than sitting watching me type this away. So this little space here, this stringify someone, we want to stringify some form of object at this point here. So again, we're going to use some of this code and this will build out. So this little bit of code here will actually take an object and JSON stringify it. So in other words, I'm going to take an object. JavaScript is perfect at saying, hey, take an object and turn it into a string, and that string to be a JSON string. So this top part here, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to pass in an object, which hopefully we're going to have received via the PLC. And we stringify it and turn it into data. Then we say, hey, we've got a new blob of data. Again, this gets into the more standard HTML JavaScript side of things. So the nuances of some of these lines are somewhat lost on me, but they work. And this is where they say, hey, if you want to save something, just do this. We then make a little URL that people can then download this from. This is actually a URL that takes place in the client itself. So the client, the web browser itself, makes a little URL that you can now download from. We then make a little element on our page, and that element we're going to make a little A tag, which is a link. We're going to start setting some attributes on it, saying that it is a href. We are actually going to try and download a file using this. It's a download, and we're going to pass in the name untitled.json as a suggested file name. We're not going to display it, and we add this to our document body. So somewhere it's hidden, a little tag will be made which will contain a URL of this new blob of data that the browser has made for us. So the browser essentially was holding the data up front because we can actually bring it in by the PLC. It's living on the client. It then wraps it up, makes a little URL for it, clicks it. Appends it to the document, clicks it, and then we remove that element. We don't need it anymore. So that little click here is what sets off the mechanism of downloading the file. If you've got a file pointed to by a link and you click it, it will download the file automatically. That's it. The other thing as well that I do is set a timeout. So we just say, yep, over a certain period of time, just remove that URL. You might need to make this a little bit bigger if it's a big JSON file that you've downloaded. But this just gives the browser, I mean, if you think you're going from your client, the browser itself, to your hard drive, it happens really fast. You're not using the network at this point because you've magicked up a file to download locally. So again, we just revoke that URL after a while, and it keeps things nice and tidy. Okay, so that's the last stage really. So excuse me. We have JSON stringify, so we need to provide something in here for it to stringify. So what I'm going to do is we're actually just going to go in and pick up that array that we had the last time. So for kickoff, let's just comment that out so it's not going to affect anything. I'm just going to save this, and I'm just going to, same as what we did last time, make desktop view. I'm going to add a button so it triggers this function. Button, and drag that next to it, and this time properties, and this is going to be save. One of the things that I will expand upon too, a number of you have come forwards with some good ideas with some file system APIs. Now, this technique will just bring up a little download into the browser itself, so you've got no control about where this file goes. So this ticks a lot of your questions to start with. A lot of people are just saying, look, how do I do the reverse? This will do the reverse. It will save it as untitled.json in the downloads folder. That's it. From what I hear, and again, thank you very much for providing this information, there's a new file system API that's coming, or some browsers support this. So I'm going to have a little look and see. But apparently this will open up a dialog box that allows you to pick what directory, what file name you're going to save this as, and actually use it like a real application. How you do load and save on a real application. So I will look into that next, and potentially there may be a third video that follows on from this. So this save, just going to double click on it, which will take you into the on-click event as a quick jump. It's other, and I'm just going to do the save JSON function straight from there. So just save that. Okay, right. So one of the things we need to do is get the that variable from the PLC. Now we know, because we passed it in here, we hard coded it. That's my array that I want to use. So that relates to the GVL in here. Just to view it at my array. So I'm just going to so I can load and I can save, and obviously when it hits the PLC, or we pull it from the PLC, it's truly the PLC's values. So if they would have changed since the last time I loaded it, they'd be different. So I'm just going to paste that in as well, just so I've got that to hand. That's the symbol I'm going to be doing. So off onto the trusty Infosys, and what we're going to be looking for is we're heading into symbol this time. So this is where we're actually living. Twink HMI engineering framework. API reference, TCHMI. TCHMI being our first namespace. That's what we can actually hit in JavaScript. TCHMI, the extra values. So what we're looking here is symbol, and a common one is readx, readex2. So there's a few different ones, readx, readx here. They've all got slightly different arguments they take, but readx2 I've used before, I tend to use. Some of the other ones require you to make a symbol first, make a simple expression first. So this one's just a bit easier. So I'm just going to copy this out because we're going to be reading a symbol. Paste that in. Now I can paste in my array, just replace their example. This one here, and what we can see is we give it a callback function. This callback function is going to be called when the data either fails or it succeeds. And if it succeeds, we're going to get some values out. So they can say, hey, the value is data.value, and it's actually going to console log the value out for us. So we'll just leave that in place and let's see what we get, because that's step one. So I'm just going to save that. And we'll go desktop view. I don't know if I've got, I know we've got live view up and running. So click to reload. And the other thing I need to just make sure of is let me just start the PLC program. I need to copy really what the coding train, excellent set of videos. And he has some hold music that goes on whenever he's waiting for something. And you see him fast forward through it as well. Okay. Okay, let's just play that. And there we go. We may as well reload that page too, but we don't need to. And hit our save button. And what we can see here is we've been presented with an object. And we can tell, it's an object, it's an array. I think everything's an object, even an array is an object in JavaScript. But we've been passed an actual live thing, because Chrome goes up one step further and says, hey, I've been given something that's not just a basic value, and I'll allow you to navigate inside it. So we can actually see here, I have this ability to expand things out, and we can even see that they've got a prototype associated with them as well. So they are an object. And the other thing I can see is they're all not set. So I don't think I set them in the PLC. So that's a good one. I'm going to leave them unset at the moment because I'd like to see what it looks like when I load this, when I save this first, and then we'll load something in, and then hopefully when we save it, we'll get the new values. So far, so good. So we know that something comes back very object-ish. So we should be on the home straight then, because when we know that we've got something object-ish, which is now being held in value, we can now pass it into this code here. So I'm just going to just move this code up. Instead of console log, I'm just going to paste it in here and uncomment using the right mouse selection. So highly recommend it. Add comment, uncomment to your mouse. I use one of these ones. So comment, uncomment, and copy and paste. I highly recommend it. It's probably the most used for keystrokes that you will do. So this one here, so of our data is going to be JSON stringify something. I'm going to pass it in the value and just make sure that actually works. And then the rest is as is. Let's give that a go, see if that works. So back onto here, reload because it was a script change. Hit save, untitled JSON comes up. Just going to open that, see what. Ah, it's opening Visual Studio. There we go. Well, that's a big screen. I'll wait for that to load. Normally that does that in VS Code, but Visual Studio's clearly feeling a little bit left out at the moment, so it wanted to come in. And what can we see? There we go. That's what we would expect. That's valid JSON, because JSON can start as an array. JSON can be either an object or an array. So yeah, it's providing us JSON as an array. So starting with the square brackets and ending in the square brackets. Again, it doesn't really care about white space. It's giving us a very it's a non-pretty version of this. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure we can do something along the lines of JSON stringify, JSON stringify, string. Okay, pretty. I think we can actually force it to pretty print as well. So stringify, pretty printing, stringify output, pretty print. I'm sure it is. I won't go too crazy. If I can't see it just straight off the bat. Function converts. I'm sure there's something we can put like a number 1 in it, and that's enough for it to say, yeah, I'll do this. So stringify JS, stringify, there's the data, null 2. Go on, let's just throw that in. So in this example, we had 2 spaces, Json. There's no replacer, so we pass null as a second argument. Yeah, let's see what it does. Because I remember it's something as simple as that half the time. There's not really much to it. Let's see what that looks like. Because we like things looking pretty. There we go. Stick that in. Save that. And just go back onto our live. Reload. Not that it makes any difference to Json. Json really doesn't care. So you can see here, because it's clashing the names now, it's already starting to do its job and give us the next one up. There you go. It's just pretty printed it for us as well. So there we go. Love that, because everyone loves Json. If we're saving it out, we might want to human read it, that type of thing. Okay, right, so the next thing is, let's just see if it's taking real values. So we'll just go back to our example, and we'll just do a load this time. And I've got my data from the last time. I'm just going to open that. It says OK, so the values have been written. So let's just, we'll actually swap onto the GVL just to see what's going on inside it. So my structure and my array, we've had our values put in, back to here, save, open it up, and there we go. So that's a successful way of reading, loading from Json and saving to Json. I will have a look and see if I can do another video based on this file API, this file system API, because I'm really interested to see that. That would be quite handy. The other thing I'd like to investigate too, and it comes up a lot, is but what if I want to save this somewhere on the server? Now that is definitely something you don't get out of the box, because server-side file access, can you imagine how horrendously bad that would be if, as a client dialing into a web server, can get access trivially to its file system? That's not possible. But that's not to say that you can't write some code at the server side that says it will scan its own file system and present that to you, maybe as a JSON object that we can then turn into a tree, use some third-party tree viewing, and remake and make it look like it. Quite often when you look at things like web servers, when you buy hosts for web pages, they'll give you like a mini file explorer that you can add your pages to. It tends to be quite rudimentary. But that's all they're doing, is they're just saying, hey, look on the server, or this virtual space that you have. I will send you all the files and the folder names. You show it your front end. You manipulate it front end and say what you want to occur. But you're not acting on the real file system. You're just sending it lots of commands saying you've just added a file here. And it'll interpret that. Maybe it doesn't even put it in that folder. Maybe that's virtualized. Okay, all right. I'll wind up the video here, and I will see you in the next one.